Welcome to Inside Out with myself, Junior Badila, and I'm joined here in the studio with Dr. Muhammad Amiso, who is African political analyst. We on this week we discussing about the generosity of USAID, United States Agency for International Development. So uh, we know that on the 20 January, that was just few hours after Donald Trump, new elected president, was taking himself into the White House. Few hours later, he issued an executive order to suspend. It was a 90 days suspension of US aid. And that executive order, Dr. Mo, created avalanche of emotions and feelings globally, and mainly in Africa. There were some commentators that were even claiming that that will critically threaten millions of lives in Africa. Dr. Mo, what is USAID? What does it do, really?
Well, thank you, Junior. I think from what I've read, USAID is supposed to be the US agency granting international humanitarian aid to the whole world. So it's a global, its scope is global because even United Kingdom receive this kind of aid. Our great BBC recipient. So and other, as you know, African third world poor African countries, our countries, we are meant to be helped by America. So anyway, that's just what they said. It was, I think, at the inception, it was a presidential order by former U.S. President John F. Kennedy. That's how the agency emerged. And I think they say in 1998 they make a bill, a law that finally formalize it as a U.S. agency. So that is basically what USAID is.
But last year, according to US government website, Africa, there was about 8 billion allocated, 8 billion US dollars allocated in Africa to fund several programs, including health, education, good governance, democracy in Africa. And this cut or ceased because the fund has been for 90 days suspended according to Donald Trump executive order. So do you think that might impact on things like health issue? We need to rely on international aid. I mean, African have to rely on international aid. If I look into the figures, I think top 5 countries in Africa, Ethiopia, the Democratic Republic of Congo, or South Sudan, so where mostly crises are, in terms of humanitarian crisis, are really deepening. So do you think that suspension is really threatening the lives of millions of African, according to some of the commentators there?
No, honestly, not at all, because I believe, because they say they do, so I want to think they do. But coming myself from Africa, I've seen Nigeria in the list, and to be honest with you, I cannot tell you in reality I am seeing any positive impact of, you said, like in terms of infrastructure. I'm not really disputing they are not doing anything as they claim, but it's not something visible that you will say people will feel the impact, because people are not even seeing the impact. I went through some of the documents, especially things that they publish, and they are being specific. Where I see is like they are targeting things that they are interested in, things they want to push. But let me give you example. this is where I think people will not really feel the impact. I believe that because the serious things that matters that affect. So now if you mention health in Nigeria, whoever is not a Nigerian, especially people from the West, if they are traveling, I think even the guideline advise them to be careful and be mindful of malaria, which is, spread by mosquitoes. Malaria affects millions. Virtually every Nigerian has gone through malaria, know what malaria is. If you are addressing malaria challenge, so I would guarantee you people will feel the impact, and when you stop that, people will feel. But when you are addressing contraception, how to use contraception, all these things, see, before, if we don't know, our parents don't know how to manage reproductive health, we wouldn't be existing. Before the West went and colonized people, our ancestors live in peace. They know how to manage reproductive health. If not, we will not exist. You don't have to come and teach us your way or how you think we should manage our reproductive life or social life. We are a people that we know how to all do that. Our ancestors were doing that perfectly. That's why I exist, because I have ancestors as far back as the beginning of humanity. If not, I will be extinct. I will not exist. So they choose some social, let me say, like
some areas of interest.
Areas of interest that are inconsequential. But like I give you the example of malaria. Go and address malaria in Africa. People will feel the impact. And is it in the north? Is it in the south? There is no state that are not battling from that. But I believe I can guarantee, I assure you, all my life I have been born and grow up in Nigeria. I have never seen any USAID program addressing malaria or any other foreign intervention, not only USAID.
I take that in consideration, but let's be honest. There was some outbreak of Ebola, for instance, in Gabon, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, in Uganda, is as well where USAID impact have been seen. HIV and AIDS as well. The 3 therapies, I think, were launched by Bill Clinton program, I think, through USAID program. So in terms of this quite mixed feeling there in terms of some impact health issues, that there are some countries that are really like Kenya, Uganda, as I mentioned, the Democratic Republic of Congo as well, that they really acknowledging the fact that USAID has have some positive impact. But that's no issue. The issue is African Union. So, it was launched in 1963, brilliant program of, I think, 2 years after the USAID was launched. But some of up from 1963, Dr. Mo, up to now, African as a continent still struggling, still relying to fund some of like education, like a health issue, still relying on international aid. That is still a big issue, isn't it?
Well, it's not an issue because, like I told you earlier, Africa does not rely on international aid for health. This I'm telling you, for go to any local hospital in Africa, you will not see they rely. It's not built by, it's still the corrupt bad government that are managing these things. As bad as they are, nobody should be deceived or should be brainwashed to believe way Africa depend on this. I don't know Congo, like you mentioned. I can tell you with authoritatively, and I'm being honest and sincere, I don't know one hospital that I will tell you rely on international aid to move, from the staff, from building the infrastructure. These things exist. I just gave you example. When you go to issue of reproductive health, contraception, how to use, I don't want to mention, but yeah, reproductive health, HIV, some issues that they choose. But this is what I was telling you. The huge amount of money they spend for, to me, if you want to help somebody, you look at their genuine problem, their real worry and concern. Not what you think or what you feel like or what you choose, but you look at their real problem and help them. I heard what you say with regard to Congo, but even there, to me, I don't see any impact, because is it mpox or Ebola that is you take Congo as a country and look at their health challenges, the first 3 or 5, then you address it. But you don't go and see like somebody has at least 1 to 10 based on priority, then you take the last 2. How is that helping them? So I believe, honestly, there is a motive, there is agenda. One is also mocking Africa, just like you said, they depend on international aid. We've seen a lot of racist, far-right, maniac, crazy people. They are giving their money, our money to them, blah, blah, blah. Third world country, shithole. This is also fueling this kind of narrative, publishing this kind of report. But I'm telling you the real thing, the fact is, go there, you will not see all these things. And I am of the opinion that maybe is one of the reasons the administration of Donald Trump are watching this agency, making this kind of, either scrapping or realignment or whatever, because I believe there is a lot of corruption going on. Because looking at the figures, the amount of money, me coming from Africa, and I will be like, okay, this amount of money is spent there. Let me give you an example. The state, I know many states, if you take the budget of the whole state, their figures is not even as half as this, what they budgeted for Nigeria, if you see in dollars. But these are state paying medical doctor, everything healthcare in that state is run by the state. So it's not more than you are seeing the impact. All health employees, medical doctors, nurses, pharmacists, they are being paid by these people. They are still building new hospitals, and their budget is like 1/10 of this so-called USAID. But you will see the impact. In fact, they are running the whole healthcare sector. But this aid money, all the budget in dollars, then you cannot go and see it. Then you'll be like, so maybe this is what the American government have said, and I think it's a good thing they should look at it. Maybe the corruption, all the
the big stuff, really. I watched Samantha Power, former U.S. ambassador to the UN. He was a former administrator to the USAID. She mentioned that there will be a global crisis because USAID has been, so it's a critical, it will be a global crisis because of the suspension. It's only 90 days because of the suspension of USAID globally. China and Russia, they're even claiming that this is a good thing that Donald Trump has done. I think even the former Kenyan president, Uhuru, even mentioned that, all right, now we are not receiving US aid. US aid has been suspended for us African, particularly for Kenya. We need to work our socks out. We need to work out. This is a good thing, isn't it?
It is. And I mentioned this earlier. See, nobody should deceive themselves or others. I said this and I will repeat it. Even before they went to Africa, before Berlin Conference, they divide Africa to themselves and then they implemented with colonization. African exists. So this still is like the concept that the US have to intervene to save the world, to save humanity. Okay, before United States was even created, before the Europeans went to America and invade there and grab the land for themselves.
Columbus.
Even before Columbus, even before the fall of Andalus, if we go back, even during the Roman Empire, the Persian Empire, those people not exist? Humanity exists, and you can't exist until you know how to do 3 things. You have to feed yourself, clothe yourself, shelter, and then reproduce. People manage themselves, so it should not be like, oh, this is a humanity saving. No, it's not. And I believe that's what I will repeat. The administration, I don't think they don't have any ground for doing what they did. They must have some reasons. And part of it, I believe, is a global, maybe fraud or scam channel for stealing money, whatever. And the point of the president, former president of Kenya, Let's go back the way we were. Who was helping us? We help ourselves. So fine. I said 200 years when my great-great-grandmother gave birth to my great-great-grandmother and she fed her, raised her. So where is the USAID that raised her? Even America does not exist then. So I like how? We know how to look after ourselves. I think the best thing they can do is stop interfering in people's lives, stop, destroying countries, invading, creating unnecessary crises. What Donald Trump say he will do, if only he will stick to it. Focus on America, make America great. Any other country should go and make their country great. And let's work together as human beings in peace. I think this is better than you said. I actually believe if they will just leave people alone, we all work toward making our country great. What Uhuru Kenyatta said is true. Kenyans should strive and make Kenya great. Nigerians should strive and make Nigeria great. Congolese strive. No interference. Rwanda, just stay in Rwanda, look after yourself, then we can all work toward making and building a better world. But this idea of, as you said, helping this, as you said, the answer is like, okay, before 1961, were people not existing? Nigeria exists, Kenya exists, Congo exists. So what happened?
I think most of the leaders, we're talking about African Chinese, went through difficult, struggles as well. They learned,
Yeah.
and most of African leaders, we went to some systemic forces. We didn't learn some of the systemic forces that shaped our struggles.
Yeah.
We did not learn from it. That's why we rely more on international aid, and like USAID. You've got UK. I think UK is as well in terms of founding some of the program in Africa. I think the second after Germany. Yeah. So USAID, UK aid, and Germany. So we did not learn from it. You mentioned it, African Union was launched in May 1963. So some of the struggle there were even part of the preamble of African Union, that listen, we need to do in terms of well-being, in terms of creating wellness of African. We did not learn from. We discussed last week. We remember with regard to the current crisis in terms of peace and security in Africa, Congo, Rwanda invading Congo. That's what pushing the agenda of the international donors to say, listen, they are not arriving to sort some of the issues that are affecting them. Let us come to intervene. Do you think this is creating some of the crises in terms of peace and security and health, education is all created in order for the end to keep coming and create the agenda?
Yeah, it's possible, because when you look at the budget, you are talking about billions of dollars. So definitely
8 billion was last year.
So
8 billion
it's
US
a huge
dollar.
number that can cause a lot of people to do a lot of batting just to get hold of that, to sustain that. Two, so definitely I agree with that narrative. That can be also a basis for creating chaos and instability, because donation will keep coming and people who want to steal it will steal it. In connivance, it will go both ways. Those from the source who are actually in the US and the USAID people who are involved in the corruption, so they will align with those on ground where the thing happened, and so it works that way. It's the same thing as the defense industrial complex, which you can see why same thing like the administration in America have been saying. Some people will go and support chaos, rebellion, problem, because just to patronize this, you understand. So there is that point. It's valid. Second thing is it's also bad because it makes Africa weak. Depending on somebody, generally I believe not even nations, even individuals, who form collectively under one geographic location, form a nation. Each individual is meant to be independent. So anybody who depends on anybody else for whatever is jeopardizing their own liberty and freedom. Humans are designed to be free and independent. I think you can easily see this. That's why I believe the word is called winning when women stop breastfeeding their babies, right? Winning. You can see the emotion. I don't think there is any emotional attachment in this world as strong as that of a mother to her child. But at some stage, they will remove that child just to make sure that child is independent. But without removing that child will not be independent. So he will continue or she will continue to depend on their mother to feed. Then the mother will start preparing that child to be independent, eat food, learn how to eat. Then next time they will start giving that child food, eat yourself, holding his hand. So this is how to that is the highest and the best example I can show you. It's genuine love, sincere love. Even a mother is preparing their child to be independent. Why is it from 1960 to this day? Are you say supposed to have a target if this is a sincere assistance? So you say, okay, we are going to support you for a period of time before you transition and be independent. And then if they roll it, I expect the first year should have the highest budget. Then the second year you start reducing the budget until you withdraw completely. But it's like going still back to your point. They are pumping money, making first, it's like the crisis or the instability will continue to exist because people who are benefiting from it will not let that issue die, and then the budget keep growing. How can we be independent? So I also go back to your point that you make of the former president. Depending on aid is detrimental to Africa, is detrimental to anybody. But if they say it's not, I pray I will want to see Africa start giving them foreign aid. So if that's a good thing, we will start now thinking of how we can build our country and start giving America aid. I become president, I will say, okay, you have issue, I will help you. If it's a good thing, but for now, I believe what Trump did, I agree with him. You should just stop it. Africa, find your way. Just like before 1960, you have been managing your health issue, your everything.
The question is how are we going to rethink our dependence on aid-driven solutions with the resources that Africa has? Talking about DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, the first, I think 90% of cobalt production comes from the DRC, 90% global production, 90%. So we're talking about critical mineral here. We're talking about EV. So all the mineral to create, to manufacture EV smartphone comes from DRC. Nigeria with oil, Gabon with oil. But how we have to rethink our dependence a driven solution.
It's management issue, Gino. It's management. If you go back, you mentioned DRC, you mentioned Nigeria. Before 1960, we were under British colonization. But Nigeria exists, the amalgamation 1914. I will start with Nigeria. But that's what I will still go back to. Before 1914, precisely Britain invaded like northern Nigeria. It was the early 90s, 1903, and so on. But before then, people exist. I will still emphasize on that. So it means people know how to manage themselves. Congo exists before Leopold. Leopold invade Congo, annex Congo, make it his property, kill millions. Fine. He's a horrible person. But he went there and met people, the Congolese, who we call you now, you are Congolese. Your identity, but you exist before. How did you manage to survive, to exist? This is just the point. Go back and look at that, how you manage, your ancestors manage. They did not extinct, they survive, they eat, they sleep well, they rest, they reproduce. It's not like rocket science or you have to have PhD in cosmology or astronomy or nuclear physics to understand this. It's pure management. And what you are seeing today in Congo, the chaos that exists was created from Leopold to this day, there is foreign intervention, there is connivance, there you have a lot of traitors who actually don't have people interest at heart. So it's management from the political class. Once they will manage the resources that you have, before Leopold invade there, it was first rubber. Nobody even know cobalt. Cobalt use was not until recently now.
Yeah,
The
just
need for
recent
cobalt
product.
is after electronic, gadget that we have and the EVs. But before that, people still exist without these raw materials. So with these raw materials, you should be more advanced. But now, I believe Congo is even retarding back before. So that's the point. The same thing with Nigeria. Before the crude oil was discovered, we exist, we live, we manage things. So with the crude money, we should be better. But at least if we are not better, we should be at the same pace as we were. So this thing you are seeing is mismanagement, which is caused by the political class. And a lot of them, they are being supported by international actors. So the whole idea is management. If you have good leaders, you get through. Look at the West we are discussing. If you go through their history, Middle Ages, they were struggling. One thing I like with them is they stand up for their own issue. They fought their war. They defend their sovereignty. Britain fought Germany, France fought the Nazis. Every day stand up for themselves. And I think if there is any aid we are going to receive from the West, it should be intellectual aid. Looking at how they manage their issue. It wasn't Africa giving them money.
Intellectual exchange.
It wasn't Asia giving them. They fought for themselves. I know they went and colonized and were taking our resources, but literally it was them doing it for their own people, for themselves. This is what I believe Africa should do. Another example, Junior, China. American aid did not build China. You just saw recently how DeepSeek wiped almost $1 trillion in American stock market. The same China, if you take them pre-Mao, where were they? But they stood up. It was not USAID. They are putting sanctions on China. China, you can see what Trump and the West are doing. China fought for themselves. Oh, God bless, the Chinese people, the way they stand up. Imagine, I always say we need to thank the Chinese. Because the way even now these people are saying immigrant. Imagine if 1 point something billion are running to us for visa. The crisis will be
the chaos. Immigration chaos.
I think they'll be like, but the Chinese stood up. And this is what I want Africa to do.
Just because of good management.
And
pure management, as you said, and good leadership. Leaders with a collective gain, collective progress, no individual gains.
That's why the political leaders are there to manage the resources. So it's like you have a radio station, you are managing it, but there is a lot of resources, computer, you pay staff, you do this, you do that. You are there as the manager to oversee it, but it's your company, it's your investment. Anything you do it wisely for the best interest of the business. Political leaders are just there to do exactly, to manage public resources for the interest of the public. When you have people mismanaging, you will see them running government. If you run any business like that, in 1 week, it's short. They will be bankrupt. But they don't see it as their own investment because they know it's not their own, it's public. And they don't love the public. So that's where I brought the example of West, China, because at least they managed to run government the way it's supposed to be, at least far better than what we are seeing today. And this is the only way out for Africa, is not to depend on those foreign aids. No, it's for you to stand up and manage your resources. How? I will say it again, Junior. How? can Congo receive foreign aid? How? If you know what Congo has. Now, how? How can Nigeria receive USAID foreign aid? How? If you know the resource we have, like how?
Yeah, pure management, bad management, as you said, and you mentioned something which is very important. The pre-colonial era, our ancestors, they knew how to self-manage themselves before even the colonial masters. Before even the African being colonized, so they know how to manage it. We still we need to refer from that period of time, or to inspire from that period of time of self-management.
Oh yes, oh yes. Well, that's exactly what the West did. If you go through their history, the Romans, before them the Greek, they had great civilization. What you see as especially here, Western Europe, Germany, France, Italy, UK, all this, which then they migrate to America, is one thing we call Western civilization. They were in a period they call Dark Ages. They were in crisis, high illiteracy. You know, they couldn't manage. They have health crisis. People were just living as like mere to survive a day. What happened? When you go back, you see they have an age they call Renaissance. You see Enlightenment era. These were eras where the West, even though they were not the Roman Empire, but they start reading the Greek Empire and the Roman Empire, and they start reflecting, oh, we want to be great. That's exactly what happened here. So the Renaissance means like reawakening. So they wake up to be themselves and like, oh, our ancestors, even though the Greek and the Romans are not the West, because the Romans were saying these are barbarians, these Western Germanic tribes are the ones invading them. But they try in a very brilliant way to reconnect with these great empires and say, oh, so that's where like reawakening, renaissance. Okay, we need to go back to be our ancestors. Revisit. Even though I will repeat again, they are not their ancestors, because Syria is more Roman than Britain or Berlin, because these ones were trying to break into the Roman Empire, but the Middle East, Turkey, modern day Turkey. But like I say, brilliantly, they reconnect with this great civilization, and that's how they started translating Greek. Actually, they translate from Arabic, because from Andalus, Spain, when the Andalus Empire, modern day Spain and Portugal fell, the Arabs has already translated book. People like, I want to remember this philosopher precisely, Ibn Rushd, they call him Averroes. So they start reading this work. People like St. Thomas Aquinas, like, what do you call this other philosopher? I think, therefore I am, not Nietzsche. Descartes, René Descartes.
René Descartes.
So if you go and read all these early philosophers, they start reading this thing, and that's where the boom. So this reawakening is just like this AI revolution you are seeing. So at a very precise time in history, the West started reconnecting with this ancient great civilization. They start changing their way of thinking. They start adopting new method, you know, how to improve their lifestyle. That's exactly what I was telling you. Africa need to go back. At least you have one of the greatest civilization, the greatest of all, Egypt.
Nubian Egypt.
So you can start trying to go and reconnect. You need something, just like I was saying, go back and remember how did our ancestors manage themselves. When you start asking this question, so you realize now I'm in deep mess, or we are also in our dark ages. Fine, how can we go into our own renaissance and move forward? We should not always be left behind. See, this thing should be bothering us. People always, oh, they are coming to our country. We are treated like shit, like animals. Sometimes I feel it. You know, when you see all these people shouting immigrant, oh, can we just, why are we not shouting immigrant in Africa? They are coming because they fixed their country. Nobody is shouting immigration because of Chinese. Come on, are you serious?
So we need
So they fix their own country. Fix your own to save us from shame and at least
protect safeguard yourself. Yeah, as you said, in terms of middle age African civilization, you mentioned Egyptian civilization. I can mention Nubians as well.
Yeah, Mali,
Songhai,
Mansa Musa,
rich kingdom of Zulu or Congo or Lunda.
And Gino, let me ask you, all
did not rely on international aid.
Not only rely, were they migrating to West? Were they even migrating to Roman and Persian Empire? No. Did you hear anybody from Songhai, Mali migrating to Britain or America or even the Roman and Persian? No, because they fixed their house, they were fine. That's what we need to do.
So African features lies in our own hands.
Yeah, of course.
So we don't need to rely on talking about USAID. Yeah. So USAID is being suspended for 90 days according to the executive order. So it's not going to be a crisis.
No, not at all.
Crisis in Africa.
No. I said it was created in 1961. Most of the African countries existed before 1961. Even the modern Western, the Berlin Conference boundary that they formed the nations, Congo exists before 1961. Leopold was there. You understand? Nigeria exists. Our independence was 1st October 1960. We already exist before that.
Existing before even Berlin Conference in 1885.
So why will you say now something that started 1961 will now, when it's withdrawn, the whole Africa? Oh no, it's a myth. It won't happen. And I pray they didn't stop it for 60 months. It should be 900 years or 9,000 years. That's how much they should freeze it. They should look after themselves. It's dangerous for any human being to depend on any other person for survival. I gave you the example. There is nobody should depend on anybody more if there is justification, like a baby to mother. Yeah. But from childbirth, that's the first independence. You have to live her.
That's the first freedom.
Yes, you have to be independent. So you are now, before a child and mother is one. But the child will have to come. It's independent, but that's making the child grow. Then winning.
So USAID already is telling you from your childbirth that you're depending on me. You're depending on me. Your education as well, depending on me.
If you want to look at it another way, it's a trap to make you even dependent, which will never let you grow. Well, if you were not given birth, you were not taught how to eat food, how to walk, how to run.
You're not being educated according to my principles, my rules. Yeah. So you won't believe. Thank you, Dr. Mo, for joining me. It was always a pleasure to discuss those hot topics in Africa. USAID, as we were discussing, is being suspended. I don't think it's going to be, as Samantha Power mentioned, it will be a chaos, a critical global issue, but not in Africa. I don't think that will be a huge humanitarian crisis, isn't it?
This can even be detrimental to Africa, the whole issue of foreign aid, because it can make Africa dependent and lazy, which is very bad. So I believe the best thing and the way out for us and every other nation is to strive to be independent and find a solution for your own problem. Just like I mentioned, the West, China, these are all countries that stood up and solved their own problem. Two, I can see from the budget and going through some of the documents, these are money meant to be aid, but there are strings attached. There are some conditions, or if you like, they are choosing some aspect or some specific area that they give emphasis on. I've seen them pushing for social issues that they care about, unlike looking at the real problem and solving the solution. So if you like the USAID, I've seen them donating money to media organizations, including BBC, which were funding other stations in Africa, pushing things they like or they think is true or to their own thinking is correct, which does not necessarily reflect the interest of the people. So it can also be detrimental to you. People giving you this will want to use that and influence you in a way they want, not in your best interest. So in conclusion, I generally believe this is completely not a good thing for Africa, entirely relying on aid. We should be independent, and if giving aid is anything good, we should be giving to other countries, not us receiving. So yeah, that's all I can see. Nothing will happen. The world will not end because America stopped, you said.
Thank you. It was always good to have you, Dr. Mo, to round African perspective. And we will catch up next week. Thank you for listening. We'll catch up next week with another issues around African debates. We always have topics, hot topics currently trending in African affairs and perspective. Thank you. We'll catch up next time. Bye-bye.